Tighten your lines as we get ready to sail the seven seas on the Political Pirate Podcast. Join Captain Ted Yoho and the salty dog, John Martin, as they search far and wide for the greatest treasure of all, the truth. From local Florida news to nationwide stories and the globe beyond, we've got it all mapped out. Now here's your hosts, the salty dog, John Martin, and Captain Ted Yoho.
Well, welcome to the Three Ps, the Political Pirate Podcast. Co-host John Martin. I'm coming to you from Treasure Island. I got my pirate parrot head on. Hopefully the internet will work here. But Ted, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, John. I'm back here in the metropolis of Wielaka, right on the St. Johns River, and left the fabulous Florida Keys to come back to the mainland.
Welcome north.
Yeah, really. Yeah, it is. It's cool up here compared to down there. This morning, I think it was in the 60s. Tight lines to you over there. I hope you do well.
Well, we had one trip already, and it was pretty rough. It was pretty rough weather over the last couple of days. But how was your trip to D.C., Ted?
Had a great trip to D.C. There's a lot of stuff going on. And I tell you what, there's a lot of stuff focusing on national health and food security with the many threats going on. Of course, we saw the Ebola virus, and then they caught those two scientists that work for the NIH bringing Ebola viruses into the United States. And one of the scientists was a guy that worked on the gain of function of coronavirus. And so these people are bringing these in unsanctioned, unpermitted, and it kind of makes you what's cooking in the background. And these people are scientists with the NIH. They know better. So that was a big talk of what I was up there for. And, everything else is just the same old up there. They're trying to get through the legislative session.
Well, to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but even if you're doing it for some type of research that you're doing, and you're taking something like that into our country, it is an act of terrorism, whether or not it
really is. And there's more focus on that than I've ever seen, with AI generated viruses, where they can go in and resequence the virus and make it more pathogenic to certain groups. This is something I talked to Francis Collins, who was the director of the NIH, back when we brought him to the University of Florida. And he said, "Oh, that's just science fiction." Ted, he goes, "That would never happen, but it's happening right now." So these are things that are going on. And of course, the big one that they're worried about is China.
The scary thing, and you kind of alluded to a minute or two ago, is if that's what we're catching them doing, what are we not catching them doing?
That's exactly right. Part. And that's why the whole focus is on global health food security for early detection and then being able to mitigate those things now. And keep in mind that China controls the pharmaceutical chains. So if we have another major outbreak of a bacteria or a viral pathogen, China controls the supply chain of that, and they can cut it off in a heartbeat. And they've already done this with the rare earth minerals. They've shown that they're not afraid to do that. And this is where I really get irritated, John, and I know we're off topic, is the American politicians have dropped the ball. And I was in there for 8 years, when we try to focus on rare earth minerals, pharmaceuticals, on the supply chains, that we should be not dependent on anybody. And we're dependent on so many things. But there is an awareness up there and an awakening. We just have got to keep Trump and like-minded people moving forward with America first. If we slide back to the Obama type of agenda, or the Biden-Harris, this country will be doomed. I mean, it really will be. And people need to wake up. And there again, that's why we're on the air, to educate, motivate, and activate people. Yeah. So I'm going to turn it back to you.
Well, one of the ways we do that is with the help of sponsors. So make that call when you see it up there. Call Freddie, become a sponsor, supporter of the show, help us keep this mission going. And tell us about one of our great sponsors, Ted, Archer Automotive.
Archer Automotive. great friends of ours, great mechanics, do great service work, and they're open Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Call for an appointment, 352-495-2485, and tell them the Political Pirate Podcast with yours truly, Ted and John, told you to call them, and you'll have reliable service, quick service, and done at a fair price.
Ted, clearly, and I'm going to use a USA Today article as a template for this, try to pick different ones, but clearly over the weekend, there were some things that happened in Congress that, we're really in a flux time here in the United States where it could literally go either way. I don't think there is a clear pattern to where we're going. I think there's a clear pattern to where the Democratic Party seems to be going, but the nation as a whole, I'm not so sure. And Trump got a vote that he didn't want in the U.S. House this weekend, and they basically voted, and 4 Republicans kind of went with the Democrats, and they were able to pass their version of the War Powers Act or enact it. Of course, it's unlikely to pass the Senate, so in a sense, it's symbolic only, but I think it's a symbol of kind of where we are. And we're going to dig into it a little deeper here, but what are your general thoughts about what happened this weekend with that vote, Ted?
Well, when you look at the people that vote, they're pretty much predictable. You can see Thomas Massey was going to vote no. Brian Fitzpatrick, absolutely going to vote no. He's out of Pennsylvania. Brian, he's in the Republican Party, but he votes very, very liberal, I'd say, more to the left. I mean, he's with the Republican Party. Brian's a nice guy. I've worked with him. And then the one that caught off guard was Warren Davidson. Warren Davidson's, he is a hardcore conservative libertarian type, served in the military, and he's just fed up with it. And he doesn't think that we should be in there. And you've heard me say that. I don't think we should have been in there. I think there would have been a better way or better planning. For instance, we could have gotten to the point where we're exporting oil and on the ready to export that to the world from the United States instead of starting a war, causing the Straits of Hormuz situation that we have that jack gas prices up. And so these people are fed up with that. But the Senate will, I think they've already voted to continue it, or the funding for things like that. I'll have to double check that. But the Senate will go ahead and continue this and allow them to keep the action going, I feel. Like you said, it was symbolic.
The problem. Yeah, well, here's the problem. And you mentioned the gentleman that's, I guess, from Davidson from Ohio. And you know these guys better than me. I suspect, I'm not saying he's not genuine in some of the things he said, but I suspect he, to a certain extent, sided with Massey and the fact that he got so roundly beat by Trump. I think that impacted because they're both libertarians in that sense, Republicans, but basically their heart seems to be libertarian. But what really troubles me about this whole thing, of course, I've said, Ted, that I really believe that if Iran had a nuclear weapon, use it. So I start from that basis. But specific to the War Powers Act and presidents using various things, because I agree that the Constitution leaves it up to the Congress to declare war. I agree with that 100%. The problem I have, Ted, is I think a lot of this is actually Trump derangement syndrome. I'm not even saying President Trump is right necessarily, but in Afghanistan, how we were there for 20 years with no declaration of war, how you look at when Obama did various things, certainly Biden in his presidency, even Clinton, all that, and even some other Republicans, this really hasn't had muster to pass except when Donald Trump is in there. So that's what concerns me, that we're making policy based on something that has nothing to do with what's actually happening.
Well, on the face value, it looks that way. But I have to remind you, back when Obama was in there and he was going to go into Syria and bomb Syria, we stopped that. And it was Congress. I was sitting there with Alan Grayson, in the auditorium where we were discussing this, and we said, absolutely, we will not. Will not approve this because Congress does have that authority. And Alan Grayson, as crazy or far to the left as he was, he said Congress has the authority to declare a war, not you, and we will not support this. And there was that whole movement on that. So Congress can speak up on this. Warren Davison, again, he came in, I think, a Congress or two after me. And I see him now, and here's the guy. He's just frustrated. He's frustrated with the broken system, and I can see him not wanting to go into Iran and get into, like you said, a 20-year undeclared war in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I kind of feel the same way. I think there was a better way to do this. The problem is, John, we're there. You can't stop now. If you stop now, the Iranian regime is going to be empowered. It's going to empower that radical Muslim sentiment around the world, and we're seeing it in UK and other countries, Dearborn, Michigan, and it's got to be stopped. So to go in there and try to negotiate with the Iranians, the leaders of the Iranian party, is a mistake because it will never happen. There needs to be complete surrender. And they're going to have to put the pressure on, whether it's military strikes, whether it's just cutting off all funds to them. And it's a shame that our allies in Europe aren't standing with us. And in the meantime, we need to get the export of oil out of the United States to these other countries. And, to take that leverage that Iran has, the IRGC. And that needs to happen now. And this is not a time to negotiate back up. Absolutely not.
Yeah, well, it does bring up an interesting question, and I'm not predicting this, but what if Donald Trump, because he is a little bit unpredictable,
he's very unpredictable.
What if he simply said, hey, okay, you're right, and he literally just pulled out? He literally pulled us out of that area. What do you think would happen?
Well, we did that with we did that with Libya when they pulled out. They took out the no-fly zones for Gaddafi and Obama and Hillary Clinton. They said, well, let's just see what happens. Well, we've talked about this before. ISIS came out of that. And ISIS was the largest terrorist and most brutal one we've seen in my lifetime. So you want to do that in Iran and just pull out? It'll be a disaster because the IRGC will slaughter their people over there. They'll put them in submission, and they'll come out stronger because other people will side with them and say they broke the backs of the great Satan, which is the United States. This would be a huge mistake. You cannot back off on this. And I'm against wars. I don't want to have those. But you've unfortunately, the Trump administration has gone in there and done that. And granted, he might have had he had tremendous more information than I did of why he went in there. And so we're there. To back off now would be terrible.
Well, the one thing that President Trump sometimes does and there's other things, but one thing that I wish he wouldn't do it this way. And you never have to doubt what's on his mind to a certain extent if you really feel something. Because he said the 4 congressmen that voted with the Democrats, he called them bad Republicans. And he said they're grandstanders. They should be ashamed of themselves. And, I don't see how that's productive. That's the problem I have.
I do too.
I can see him criticize and say I disagree with him on it, but the way he's doing it, I think it doesn't help the situation. And that's the thing I don't like that he does occasionally. I understand. I don't just throw the baby out with the bathwater like some people do, but I wish he wouldn't do that.
No, he's driving people away from him. And, you get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And he takes a bad situation and just inflames it. Brian Fitzpatrick is not a grandstander. He was an FBI agent, served this country honorably. He is not a grandstander. Warren Davison is not a grandstander. He's been with Trump most of the time on everything. Thomas Massey is not a grandstander until maybe the last year and a half, 2 years, maybe after his wife died. I don't know. But he's taken a very strong stance. And of course, that foments it and, it just grows legs. And so you get elevated because the news is on you all the time, making you the anti-Trump person. And, but for him to come out, Trump to come out and say these are just terrible Republicans and that. No, he needs to look within. He needs to look at the man in the mirror and say, why is this? Why are these people turning on me? And it's not just those four. The sentiment up there is people are tired of what he's done, and their goal is to maintain the House and grow the House majority. And it's going to be very questionable. I think they're going to maintain that. But with Trump coming out against these people, it doesn't help the cause, and it belittles him and makes him look like a very childish person.
Yeah, and the thing about it too, if it truly is symbolic, and I think in a sense it is, as far as what's actually going to happen from it, why go down that road anyway? I mean,
absolutely.
You can't, so just let it go. You don't have to agree with it. Say I simply don't agree with it. I'm like where the Senate is right now, and we're going to finish this mission. And that's all you got to say, and let the people judge whether they think these guys are, quote, bad Republicans or whatever. But Trump, he said something else over the weekend. He was on the Miranda Devine, I think that's her name, with the the New York.
I listened to that.
She's a pretty interesting person in general, but
he does great
Trump
work.
has been accused of being in the pocket of Benjamin Netanyahu, and he said some stuff on this podcast that I don't know if it was intentional to counteract that I'm in the pocket, because I don't think he is in the pocket. But it was very interesting what he said about Netanyahu, and then Netanyahu had a little bit of reaction too. But let's play it real quick, and I'll turn it back to you when we get back. Check this out.
You said, are you effing crazy? What are you effing doing? Is that true? Did you speak to him in those terms?
I did. I wouldn't say angry. I was a little bit perturbed. If there wasn't me, there would be no Israel right now. Everybody knows that. We could have never done it without the United States, but I've worked very well together. I like Bibi a lot. At some point I said, Bibi, we got to stop this. We got to stop it.
You were angry.
Pretty interesting stuff there, Ted. What'd you think about it?
No, I mean, he like you said, Trump says what's on his mind. And that kind of needed to happen, because as Trump's trying to negotiate some kind of a settlement over there, Netanyahu's blowing up people, and Iran, whether it's justified or not, that Israel's bombing those people, Iran will use that as an excuse and say, oh, ceasefire is off. And it drags this out, John. And that's the thing they're going to do. It's going to drag it out instead of have a finality to it. And that's where Trump just needs to put the pressure on Iran and get them to surrender 100%. I don't like the situation we're in, but I think he's right to call Netanyahu out on this.
Well, it's interesting, and I hope people take this the right way, because I'm 100% for our representative republic. I'm 100% for, one man, one vote, not a wide open democracy, because that's too chaotic. But, I'm for our citizens participating and voting and everything else. But one of the hazards, if you will, of elections like that is politicians play to the crowd. And you never know exactly how it's affecting it. I don't think Trump is necessarily doing it, but Netanyahu's got an election coming up as well. So it could impact what he's doing. And maybe it should, but that is the one thing that is a bit tricky, because they can always say, oh, I don't really care about the election. I'm just doing what I think is right. But we all know they do care about the election, and they may still be doing what they think is right. Sure. So it is a bit tricky when that's all going.
No, you're absolutely right. And, it's funny because there's policy, and Trump, prides himself on the art of the deal. Everything's got to be transactional. Well, the rest of the world doesn't really act that way. They want to have a relationship. They want to know, trust, and like people for the most part. And I think we're all like that. Trump wants transactional. And what fails in that, or what is left out of that, is diplomacy. You've got to have diplomacy, and transactions are fine, but you better have some good diplomacy too, and walk away to where people feel like it's a win-win situation. And he'll praise Netanyahu at one moment. Now he's cussing him, and it breaks that relationship. And that's a relationship we can't afford to lose, I feel.
Absolutely. So you wonder how much of it is gamesmanship and how much of it is real. But we're going to take a quick commercial break. Before we do, I want to remind people to make that call Freddie, become a sponsor of the show, help us to educate, motivate, and activate people. Ted, take us to break.
Sure. We look forward to coming back to you and talking to you, but don't forget to call Archer Automotive with anything you need, from transmission repair, your full service diesel and gas repair facility. And they've been in business for over 20 years, and they have a 5-star rating with Sure Critic. So we'll see you after the break.
Hi there, this is Coach Steve Spurrier, and I want to let you know that by popular demand, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill's delicious brunch is now served in a premium buffet. You have spoken, we have listened, and we're now serving Gainesville's only elevated buffet, complete with an omelet station, ginger sage chicken sausage, shredded short rib, plus you can enjoy bottomless mimosas and Bloody Marys. So join us every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3 for the best brunch in town.
And we're back to the 3 Ps, the Political Pirate Podcast, with your host here, the old salty dog, John Martin, and the captain of our pirate ship, none other than Ted Yoho. Well, we're going to switch gears a little bit and start talking about some campaigns and some things. But before we do, I got to get your opinion on what's happening out in California, Ted, because they had the election for both basically the governor and the mayor of LA. And now they're telling us that it's going to take 2, 3, maybe weeks, maybe even a month to count the ballots. It's absolutely insane.
Oh, it is. I mean, it's just fraud in the open that they have to count. I mean, it's California. This is where all the high tech stuff is. But what can you expect out of Gavin Newsom and the Democrats out there? I mean, look how long they've been working on the super rail system out there, the high speed rail system, or look at how they're responding to the Palisade fires. I mean, give me a break. This is something, we're in the 21st century. This should be over. They just don't like the results. So they're going to scour the landscape for, votes and make up votes. I mean, it's ripe with fraud. This is where mail-in ballots should be eliminated 100%. We're the only industrialized nation that allows this, or the only developed nation that allows this, and it needs to go away. It's corrupt, and it needs to end. And Michigan's doing the same thing. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, well, in Florida, I guess we got it right, because we can count like 10 million ballots in less than a 24-hour period.
Except in
here.
Broward
We've had some
County.
close.
Except in Broward County. I mean, they're terrible down there.
I'll say one thing, and we will move on. Even if you're for Karen Bass or whoever, even if you're for the Democrats out there in California, if you're honest about it, isn't it ridiculous? I just like to ask a redundant question out there. Is there anybody that can legitimately defend the fact that it would take them 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks to count the ballots this day and age, other than corruption? Really?
Really. I mean, it just speaks highly of that. And when you look out there, the lady that was in third place is now starting to gain traction. And guess what? She's further to the left than Karen Bass.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know. Well, we're going to talk about, we've been talking about, off and on, we talk about Nazis and stuff like that, because Trump is accused of being a Nazi. But it seems like the only actual Nazi running for Senate in this case is this Graham Plattner. And I got to say, Ted, I know we've been talking about him a lot, but my question is just how much rope does Plattner actually have? How much of a leash do they give him before he hangs himself or they rail him in? I mean, it's just unbelievable that he's done all these things. And I'm going to read a little list of them here in a second. But, I mean, how much rope does this guy have, Ted?
I don't know. He keeps running with it, and they keep feeding it out there. I mean, they want to use him for as another useful idiot, another loudmouth out there is projecting hatred to this country and the foundation of this country. I mean, the guy's he does. It pains me that this is the best type of people that we can have. The Eric Swallows, people like him. Who is that guy from New York in the Republican Party? George. They threw him out of Congress. Michelle Schuffler McCormick out of Florida. Where do these people come from? How do they get in there? Throw them out. You know who he is, and they're going to put him in office. So the people of Maine, if you put this guy in there, you deserve what you get. Are you there, John?
Well, if people run on yeah, I can you hear me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't look good.
John.
Can anybody hear? Can you hear me?
Technical difficulties right now, folks. John will be back. He's going to kill his video, hopefully, so he has more bandwidth. John, you there? Hello, Johnny. Anyways, talking about Graham Plattner. This guy, you've got a known quantity going in there. Yes, he was a Marine, is a Marine. Yes, he is a oyster farmer. Yes, to all those things. But look at the type of character he is. It goes back to our founding fathers. If you want to have this country survive, it requires people of good moral standing, character, and responsibility. And you have to have these people to have a government to go on a free constitutional republic. And if you don't have these people, you're going to have a decay. And I ask you today, do we have a decay in government? And I think the answer is yes. And so we need to change the type of people we get in there. You've got politicians and you've got statesmen. This guy's a politician that's going to say whatever he wants to get elected. And the Democrats are going to stand behind him. And John, I see you're back. So I know you've got a video coming up of our great, of the Democratic Party's great leader, minority leader in the Senate, Chucky Schumer. And I want you to play that because I want to come back and talk about that.
Okay. So did you talk about the Plattner's latest escapades, they're saying?
Well, we talked enough about him. Go ahead. What is the latest?
His latest thing is there's been, I think, 5 ex-girlfriends of his come out in the New York Times published this, saying that he was aggressive, that he was physical, that he was abusive, all of this stuff, that he cheated on them and everything else. And 3 of the 5 have absolutely said that, and 2 of them have basically not commented on it. We used to say, believe all women and all. So you wonder who is supporting this guy. I want to play a quick video here. This is John Fetterman. Ask about Plattner. Now, he's a senator from Pennsylvania, Mr. Fetterman. And Plattner, if he were to win, would be the next senator from, God help us, from Maine. Listen to what Fetterman says about Mr. Plattner. Check it out.
Out of the Maine
Senate P. Hustle. Yeah, he's around. Apparently, we didn't match up on Kick, so we're not. I guess we're not going to meet with them on that.
You're not meeting with them.
Like what kind of a creeper has been on a decade on a platform like Kick and send a dozen explicit kinds of messages and who knows what else. The thing he has going for him is it's so long you lose count of all the things. It's every other day there's a new one.
Should he drop out?
And that's up to Pennsylvania. I mean, that's up to Maine. You know, I'm Pennsylvania. So, but that's here we are, and who wants to defend those things? I don't know, but I.
And we're back. Hopefully you can hear my voice. I decided to cut my video off because my internet is not the best here in the wilderness. But Mr. Fetterman there, Ted, he asked, who wants to defend that, talking about Plattner, which we've said before, it's just amazing that Fetterman is the voice of reason in the Democratic Party and one of the best voices in D.C., period.
He really is. And the Democrats are all supportive of John Fetterman. And everything I heard on the right was he was a whack job and all this. And this is where you can't trust traditional media, legacy media. What we have found out is just what you brought up. John Fetterman has become the voice of reason for the Democrat Party. And keep in mind what we're saying. John Fetterman, voice of reason of the modern Democrat Party. Where are the statesmen from old? Joe Manchin. I mean, he was a statesman, and the Democrat Party ran him out. Now the Democrat Party, now that John Fetterman is kind of the voice of reason, they want to throw him out, and they want people like Graham Cracker here, and they want to bring in people like Graham Plattner into the Democrat Party. And I think you got that video of Chuck Schumer rallying behind this guy. And I want to make a comment after you play that video.
Well, before we do that, I just got an idea, Ted, how we could save this country. We just eliminate Congress altogether temporarily. And we have John Fetterman as the only senator, and you come out of retirement as the only House member, and y'all two decide which way the country's going.
Might be better just to use the 8-ball, the magic 8-ball or a Ouija board.
I hear you, but
I don't think they could. I don't think they could do any worse.
I guarantee you. But Fetterman, at the end of that video we played, he says, "Who wants to defend that?" Talking about defending Plattner. Well, I want to play you a short clip of a couple of Dems doing just that. Check this out.
Senate Democrats met with candidate Graham Plattner, whose campaign has been hit with several controversies, but some of them are still betting he can take the seat from Republican Susan Collins. We'll see. Take a look.
I endorsed Graham Plattner. We're going to beat Susan Collins and take back the Senate.
What the American people are saying right now is let's let candidates have the guts to take on a corrupt and broken system. And maybe let's understand that nobody is perfect.
Democrats have got a huge problem. Graham Plattner in Maine is one example, that terrible Senate candidate.
And there you have it. There's a couple people defending it. Bernie Sanders, and I know one of your favorite people of all time is little Chucky Schumer. What do you think about that, Ted?
Well, again, they both say the same thing. They really don't care about his back. I mean, Bernie Sanders said, well, yeah, he's got some baggage, but yet he'll be a good senator. All they want is power. It is all about power and to continue the Obama, the Biden-Harris agenda, which is really the Obama agenda. And that is the fundamental transformation of America. That did happen. It's happening right now. Look at where we came from George W. Bush to where we are now. I mean, America was pretty much America back then. God, country, and family, the red, white, and blue. George Bush standing there at 9/11 with the flag waving and the pride in the country and the danger that we saw from outside. Now that danger is with the inside, and it's coming from the Democratic Party. And you get Chuck Schumer and Bernie Sanders that want to promote it. Bernie Sanders is a communist, and Chuck Schumer is just he's like a leech. He'll just suck on to whatever will make him survive, not the country to survive, but for Chuck Schumer to survive. These people need to be thrown out of office. Plattner needs to not even get in office to throw him out. America can do better, and we have to help. Even Whoopi Goldberg, if you haven't played that one yet, Whoopi Goldberg says, where are the normal people? You people in the audience need to run.
Yeah, she said that at the very beginning. But we're going to play another clip from that same show, The View. And I think this is a very important clip because to me, I don't agree with anything she's saying, but I think what she's saying is how a lot of these Democrats feel about supporting Plattner and many other of the candidates that we could talk about. But I really like what she's saying in one sense because I think it's honest from her perspective. And it's a terrible perspective, but check it out.
Yeah, it is.
Yesterday, I was sort of on the fence. I'm like, character matters, morals matter. I can't believe that this is the person in Maine that's gonna, take on the Republican, take on Susan Collins. I'm now convinced that we are really in a bad place in this country. Democrats have to take over the Senate. They have to take over the House. They have to bring some semblance of normalcy back to this government. And if it takes getting behind someone like Plattner, which 51% of voters in Maine say that they will get behind him as opposed to 42%. If I lived in Maine, I would hold my nose and I would pull that lever and I would vote for him.
I vehemently and strongly disagree with this.
I knew you would,
So
girl.
here we come. I first of all believe you're right. It's the people of Maine that need to decide. So this is up to them. But if you ask me to.
And there you have it, Ted. That's Sonny from the View. And like I said before we watched the video, the only thing I respect about that is I do believe she honestly feels that way. I think that Trump derangement syndrome is so bad in people like her that she literally admits that she's throwing her morals and character out because she'd hold her nose and vote for Plattner to stop Trump and the Republicans. That's why.
Yeah. Again, I'll reiterate what our founding father says. To have a constitutional republic to survive, you have to have a moral, virtuous society. And if you don't have that, it will not survive. And here we are today, 250 years into the republic, and it's decaying. I mean, it's always decayed, but there's been enough people on the moral side to keep this country to do the right thing. When you get challenged, between good and evil, bad and good, do the right thing. It goes back to General Schwarzkopf. When in doubt, do something and do what's right. And for this lady to say, I don't like the guy, he's going to be terrible, but anything to beat Trump. And you're going to beat Trump and you want to put back in Biden and Harris or that kind in the office, or Gavin Newsom or Pritzker. No, you're looking at the survival of America or the failure of America. Get real, get educated, vote right, and don't let this guy get in.
Yeah, well, she brings up something that I've been asking myself quite a bit. And I think it kind of goes to the essence of what our show is trying to accomplish. And that question is, what are our shared morals and character? What do we have in common as Americans? I'm not sure that we have that much. I mean, obviously, you and I have some shared moral characters and things like that. We may disagree on some things and that type of thing. We have a foundation of a certain shared morals and character that founded this nation. But I'm beginning to wonder, do we really have that anymore? Or if we do, is it in such short supply and diminishing and fading out that we're going to be radically different, in 5, 10, let alone 20 years? And what will that shared moral character be? It's a question that really is on my mind a lot lately.
No, I mean, that's something that was one of the things that got me to run, John, for Congress, was that slow decay. It's like a wood-destroying organism in a piece of wood that holds up your wall. It's a slow decay, and it doesn't happen overnight. And it's been going away. You look at the very foundation of this country, God, country, and family. Family was a unit, husband and a wife raising their children, teaching them in the way to go. It was the Christian values. It wasn't the Muslim values as Barack Obama wants to put out there. They're welcomed here, but you need to assimilate and become Americans. This is where our presidents in the past, they welcomed all immigrants, but understand this, as Theodore Roosevelt said, there's room for one language. It's the English language. You need to learn it. There's room but for one flag. You need to honor it. You're either 100% American or not at all. That was the standard back 100 years, 119. He was in office in the early 1900s. So we've gone that far since then, and we've seen that slow decay. Lyndon Johnson's Great Society with the Democrats that destroyed the nuclear family, the assault on the nuclear family ever since then. You get the Gloria Sanger that comes out with the women's movement, the transgender, all that stuff is thrown into that basket that goes against the very fabric of what this nation was founded on and why people will join the military to fight those and preserve those values. The left has been against that for 100 years, and they're gaining steam. You get the AOCs, the Madanis, and all these people that are tearing down this very fabric of America. We have got to get back to the basics, or this country will be but a blip in history. That's what's wrong. And it's these elections. And Graham Plattner does not fit that mold of God, country, and family. I mean, all this texting and sexting messages that he sent out just shows you that he lacks that moral fiber that you want to lead this country into the future and preserve that thing it's been founded on.
Well, you mentioned Plattner again, and one of the things, and when I got cut out that I wasn't able to say, we're talking about those women that came forward and said that he was aggressive and all that. A couple of them said also that he knew exactly what that tattoo was, that he knew exactly what, and he had a nickname for it that basically his dreadnought tattoo or something that about not. He knew exactly what he was talking about, and I think that's interesting because the Democrats spend so much time calling Trump and people on the right Nazis when they're the only ones actually supporting a Nazi for the U.S. Senate. Man, it's crazy. But talking about moral characters, I don't know if you saw this or not, but over the weekend in New York City, they had their annual Israel Pride Parade. And it's been happening since for 48 years, I think, or since 1948, I'm sorry, when Israel was basically founded. They've been celebrating it. And every single mayor and former mayor has attended this every year, except now Mandami did not attend it and made a point of not attending it.
He sure did. He didn't want to inflame anybody, but he said he did something else that to appease the Jewish community. The guy is he's an anti-Semite. He's against the Jewish people. He's the one that was chanting from the river to the sea. He's got the clerics in the office, the radical clerics in New York City. And he's not even a wolf in sheep's clothing. He is the wolf. And, again, New York is going to get what they voted in.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Maybe you can help me with this, Ted. I got to ask some Jewish friends of mine this question because all of this stuff that's been happening in New York City and around the country and obviously over in Israel, when Mandami won the mayorship, do you realize he got over 33% of the Jewish vote in New York City? And that's significant because the largest population of Jewish people outside of Israel is in New York City. And he got over 33% of that vote in New York. You go, my God, is there any hope for us?
It really, you wonder that because that is a mandate given by the voters to the representative. So the voters, a third of the Jewish population, has done that. And again, you're going to get what you voted in. And and if those bad things happen, don't complain about it. Just say you brought that in upon yourself.
Absolutely. Well,
hey, I got to go back to something here. I've got this picture of a man's bare bosom up there with Plattner's tattoo on there. And I don't know if this was Photoshop, but there's a sign behind him that says Plattner for Senate. He's got a wedding band on his left finger. So he's only been married, 3 or 4 years? So this tattoo has to be pretty recent. So he knew exactly what he was doing. when he put this on his body, his half of his chest is shaved, the other where the tattoo it isn't. So this is a recent tattoo, and for him to say it was done a long time ago, I'm not buying that.
Well, I hear you, Ted. Well, since we're back on him for a second, I mean, this guy, I asked the question earlier, what's enough rope or how much leash do you have? This guy called Navy SEALs the P word.
Yeah.
He said a Purple Heart recipient deserved to die, should have died. He said every time he goes into a portalet, he's not, as they say on Seinfeld, master of his domain, if you know what I'm talking about. He does the nasty in portalets. I mean, this guy is nuts. But I wonder, where we're going, Ted. And you brought up a story you sent to me that kind of says, unfortunately, where we may be heading. This guy, Dr. Adam Hamaway, who is a renowned, I guess, plastic surgeon, won some awards and all.
Right.
He won the New Jersey primary and will probably be the next congressman from that district in New Jersey.
Right.
And what is significant about that, he actually supported this guy called the Blind Sheik, Omar Abdul Rahman, the Blind Sheik, that orchestrated the first attack on the
World Trade
Center, the bombing down there in the basement. Yeah, he orchestrated that. And this guy, Hathaway, and you rightfully pointed this out, has openly supported this man, and yet he is most likely going to be the next congressman from the great state of that district in New Jersey.
Yeah, and again, people wake up. I mean, this is going on in Michigan. They had the Muslim parade there, and it was an ISIS parade, basically. And I saw mixed people in there. I saw people that looked like 100% American marching in a Muslim parade. Dearborn, Michigan, and Michigans in general are saying, we've got too many Muslims here. England is saying the same thing. We've got too many Muslims in here. And there's going to be a backlash about them. And again, I'm not anti-Muslim. I'm anti-radical people that want to take this country down. If you're not going to assimilate and you're from a different culture or different religion and you want to tear down America, you need to get out. Do us all a favor and leave, because it's going to wind up in a civil war. And we don't want that, because there's enough of us that believe in God, country, and family, the red, white, and blue, everything that's great about America. It's not a perfect country. Yes, there are some things that have been done wrong, but it's our goal to make it better. And we're not going to allow these other people to tear it down because you don't like it. We love this country. And it's a warning. I mean, it really is a warning. And it just, I get so aggravated. And again, it's gotten worse since I've been out of politics. I got in there thinking, man, we can turn the tide here, but it's going to take a lot more than a few people saying we're going to turn the tide. We need to all stand up and just get back to basics, John.
Yeah, well, Ted, we got a few minutes left in the show, and I want to kind of close out the week by hitting a couple of quick topics here. And one of them, people say, oh, you don't ever criticize Trump. Well, I'm going to do, but I'm going to criticize him roundly right here. The Senate had multiple votes over the last couple of days to potentially reject this, what do they call it, the compensation fund for those victimized, the defense fund, whatever they're calling it. And it didn't get pushed out. $1.8 billion fund to compensate people who claim they were victimized by the government during January 6th. And I think you and I both agreed the president should just drop this. He never should have brought it forward. I don't really understand pure politics, I'm saying now. I don't understand what he hopes to gain from this. If he truly believes it, that's one thing. But why not wait? I mean, why is he doing it right now, leading into like the midterms? Because to me, it seems political folly for that reason alone. I don't agree with it, period. But for that reason alone, I think is a mistake. And I'm perplexed as to why he's doing it.
You got to wonder if there's people behind him that are working against him and bring this stuff up. Say, hey, this fund, you won the lawsuit. Let's make a fund. We'll call it the Trump Fund. Because that happens up there, John. There's people that you think are close to you, working with you, and they're working against you, but they're smiling at you the whole time. I don't know why he's doing this now. Miranda Devine has a great segment on her Podforce One that explains this fund. This fund has been around and it's been sanctioned by Congress, and it's through the Department of Justice. And the Democrats have used that fund more, and this money was to go into that fund. So it's not like a separate fund. It goes into that fund that serves to go after people that were to protect the people that the government went after. And I would recommend people listening to that because it really explains this well. And we can talk more about that on Monday. And I'll have,
I'll have to look at that.
Yeah, it was great. Because it's not like the media polls out, especially the Democrats. It's nothing like what they're saying. Go figure,
huh? Imagine that. But the House passed a bipartisan legislation Thursday that, according to this little article I was reading, they call it clashes with Trump administration by providing new aid to Ukraine while imposing sanctions against Russia. I know Trump was somewhat opposed to providing more military aid. He didn't think it was going to help the peace process. But Ukraine, the whole thing with Ukraine is really falling out of the news with Iran and all that. And I've been a little perplexed as to why that is. But what are your thoughts about this? Because it seems like we're re-upping the ante in the Ukraine right now.
Is the peace process going on in Ukraine? You see the bombings going back and forth, but I'm hearing over here there's a peace process. I ain't seeing it, and I don't think the people of Ukraine are either. Again, on this, it shouldn't be America versus Russia working with Ukraine. It should be the NATO alliance working with Ukraine, and the United States should take their respective seat as far as their involvement based on a fair responsibility in that. And for the House to come out and do this again, it's going to drive a wedge between them and Trump so they can separate. And this is something we predicted, that as we get closer to the midterms, you're going to see people start getting away from Trump. And Trump is inviting a lot of this just by his antics, like you said, calling these four Republicans losers, or they're not really Republicans. And so he's driving that wedge, and this is something else that's going to drive that further. And unfortunately, the politics of the midterms will determine the outcome and the direction of this country.
Well, Ted, you spurred something on me there, like
That's
you always
good, man.
do. We talked about the War Powers Act at the beginning of the show,
right?
And Iran. But here's a question I have. Okay, so it's obvious when you put our troops in harm's way, you put our aircraft carriers, that is war. We're involved in a war. But if I'm feuding with my neighbor across the street, and you decide you're not gonna get directly involved, but you're gonna make sure I got more shotguns than he has, aren't you actually involved in our war? I mean, so
yeah, we call those
we're
proxies.
Actually arming Ukraine, isn't that a type of war that we're involved in? Why have I not heard them enact the War Powers Act in that? What is the difference? Is it only if our guys are directly involved? Because our guys are, we got advisors over there and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
Do. So to me, why don't they react to that? Because it's killing even more people than what we're killing in Iran. So why isn't that a declaration of war? Because to me, if you arm my enemies, you're at war with me, whether you say it or not.
You dang right. I mean, it really is. I mean, we are involved in that. And the more we support Ukraine, the more Russia gets inflamed, and it's against America. The more China gets involved supporting Russia because it wears down America. The more Iran does with what little assets they have. Cuba, anything they can funnel. The people in Venezuela, just because Maduro's gone doesn't mean they love America. They're going to funnel any support they can to Russia, to Iran, to weaken America, because we're the big pain in the rear end for everybody around the world that doesn't believe in liberal democracies like we do. And it's just like you said, just because we don't have boots on the ground, they know we're involved in it. And it's just bad foreign policy. And this is, where foreign policy to me is the most important thing we can do in a country from a national stage for national security. I mean, government's got to do all those things they're supposed to according to the Constitution. But to be involved in wars like this does not serve us. And, history repeats itself, and we'll have to see where this heads to. John. I know where it's going to head to, and it's not pretty.
Yeah, well, maybe we need to get back to the Ted Yoho, I think Jeffersonian doctrine about trade with all, entanglements with none. Basically, I know
that's
I'm paraphrasing.
Washington. That's Washington. And then Theodore Roosevelt and Ronald Reagan. Walk softly, carry Bigston. Yeah.
Don't forget Ted Yoho, the captain of our pirate ship.
We need to do a Dusty Rhodes and get on the top turnbuckle and come down on their head.
I hear you. Well, that's going to do it for our show. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please like what we're doing, share what we're doing far and wide, and make that call Freddie. Ted, take us out, my friend.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate everybody watching. Share us with your email chain. Feel free to invite sponsors to our show. And don't forget to visit our sponsor, Archer Automotive, open Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Call Joe or Richard out at Archer Automotive at 352-495-2485 for all your service needs on your automobiles and trucks. And we'll see you on Monday. Take care and have a great weekend.
Peace out, everybody.